Hi, everyone. Welcome to True Disabled Story. My name is Nico, and I use he, him pronouns. I'm a white man with blonde hair, large blue and brown spectacles, and a light purple button up shirt. I'm seated in front of an office setting, and I also have a black headset around my head so I can hear. Like roughly 25% of Americans and a full 17% of Philadelphians, I'm disabled. And whether we look locally, nationally, or globally, disabled communities are full of dynamic, diverse, and frankly delightful people with their own stories to tell. All we have to do is listen. Now, folks, I was born with my condition. I've never known differently, and I probably never will. So I've always been interested in hearing about the diagnosis journeys, the stories, I guess I would say, of my fellow disabled guys, gals, and non-binary pals. Man, I just love hearing people's tales. Anyway, this time I'm happy to be joined by my friend Michele. I'm eager to hear about where she's been in her diagnostic journey and to hear some advice she has to share for us. Michele, hi, how are you?
Hi, Nico. It's great to be here. I can do a self description as well. My name's Michele Mashburn. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I do identify as a queer disabled individual. I am mostly gray haired nowadays. The pandemic kind of knocked any color I had out of it. But my mom says it's painted real nice. So it's kind of, multi perspective, kind of, a lot of different colors and stuff. I do have a headset on. I'm a white woman with hazel eyes. I have some rose gold glasses on, and I'm currently wearing a teal shirt. Behind me is my Zoom background, which is just kind of a purple blob on it, and it says All Things Disability, which is the container I created during the pandemic, and I'm continuing to kind of try to develop into some version of an entity as both my advocacy work and a way to push for human rights for people with disabilities across all identities. So I'm happy to be here.
That's very impactful work. Thank you. So, Michele, what was your path to diagnosis like? Was this something that was a surprise that came out of the blue, or was it something that maybe you pursued or were at least curious about? Paint that picture for me.
So I am multiply disabled. In my early 20s, I became disabled due to trauma, and at that point, what was perceived as a mental health diagnosis. I had to go on Social Security disability income at that point. Actually, it was a combination of SSI and SSDI. Uh, and that was kind of hard because I hadn't been, I mean, we're talking 1994 also here. So recently I realized that's 4 years after the ADA was passed, and so disability was largely different for me growing up. It was a separate group of people, very low numbers. It was something you didn't talk about. And in many ways, I was not necessarily appreciated to be having the difficulties I was having. So I had a lot of internalized shame. Um, Through that time, you know, I I struggled. I went through different kind of diagnostic labels that none of them were truly a good fit, but eventually due to the trauma that I had experienced in my childhood, came to realize that I have a version of complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And then thanks to the treatments that I received as well as the gaps in the system and the struggles I've been a part of, I've developed multiple other disabilities, some which may have been present at birth but were never diagnosed, others that have developed into a disability. I'm currently a wheelchair user due to chronic pain and fatigue. So I'm what's considered an ambulatory wheelchair user. Um, and ultimately, the diagnostic labels have never fully, it's like trying to fit a round peg into a square hole. I can go and it's like they can understand a part of it. They can diagnose me with this, but then it gets lost and it's like 6 months 6 years later we realize that's not what it was, and I have a lot of those stories. So I have a complex history with diagnosis. Most recently I've come to realize that I am neurodivergent. I have attention deficit disorder, possibly not from birth, but likely due to a traumatic brain injury that I had in my 30s, I think, or at least that made it much worse. And then as I've aged, I've had question marks on, am I actually autistic or not? I haven't pursued that level of diagnosis because to me, I think I can get my access needs met through the diagnoses that I have. Um, but there is a quest for validation of the struggles that I had and what role these things played. And I think that's an important part of who I am and what I bring to the table is that struggle of never having a clear yes or no or black and white diagnosis, but rather having this ongoing kind of trend that has created complexities in my life. And um, it's only been recently that I reached a point where I'm more comfortable with who I am. I have less internalized shame, less, I realize that I'm limited more by society than I am by my diagnoses or what I deal with on a day to day. My medical history is not who I am. Um, but those barriers are what impact me in many, many ways and make my life more difficult, make me more disabled by that reality. Um, I may have rambled on a little too much there, but
Oh, one thing that I'm finding as I do my first few interviews is that this first question is when folks really go and give their whole story, and then subsequently we drill down. So you're totally fine. Michelle, thank you. That was a real tale. What strikes me about the story you just told is how it impacts you throughout your life. You talk about this TBI you experienced in your 30s. You had CPTSD diagnosed in your 20s, and even now you're still exploring other avenues or deciding where to best place your energies. I really respect that. It takes a long time, and more than that, it takes energy that disabled people like you and I don't always have. So, thank you for helping yourself in that way. I'm interested to know a little bit more, like through your life, what impact has your diagnosis had, or lack of diagnosis? You get to it a little bit when you begin talking about like social model of disability and being disabled more by your environment. How did people like interface with you as you were pursuing diagnoses? What was that like?
so I'm also a fat person and I use fat as a label and an identity and not as a stigmatized terminology. I think life circumstance leads and genetic predisposition lead people to be various shapes and sizes and types and everything else. Um, there's a lot of stigma attached to, for me, in my 20s, in my 30s, as a person that was mentally quote unquote ill, had a mental health struggle. I spent a lot of time in and out of hospitals and struggling to find the right tools to figure out how to function in society. Um, so there was diagnoses that would happen and a lot of times they were bad labels. They were the system trying to make sense of things that they didn't fully understand. And I am a complex person with a complex history, as I think most people are. And there's a lot of the intersecting kind of realities that impact how a person presents. So I struggled a lot. I would get, at one point they declared me healed with my mental health stuff when I was cutting clothing into rags for Goodwill Industries, as a supported work type thing, where literally I had to prove that I could meet their quota in order to get paid the minimum wage that I was getting paid. And my brain's too active for that. So this is where the diagnosis gets kind of jumbled with how society perceives that diagnosis and what is seen as good and what is seen as you're useless. And this is what I lived with and I grappled with. And I mentioned the internalized shame, earlier. It I knew that wasn't right for me. So I continued to push forward to get what was the diagnosis. I wasn't actually diagnosed with CPTSD until 10 years after I started struggling with mental health struggles. It was like, you have treatment resistant depression with, um, treatment resistant depression with psychosis, psychotic, atypical psychotic features. And they would throw more medication at me, more medication at me. The treatment I received often, because I was medicated, because I was viewed as non-compliant, in the sense that, I mean, when somebody hears non-compliant, you think you're not doing enough. And for me, that I'm a recovering perfectionist. So it was like, I'm not good enough. I'm non-compliant. I've got to do better, which of course then made me take more drugs, which then impacted my physical health and well-being more, which resulted in more diagnoses, which resulted in more struggle. So there's this ongoing loop. When not What non-compliant means is your diagnosis or your mental, your physical pathology is not necessarily responding to the treatments that they have available. It is not about what I was doing or how I was doing it, but it took me many years to realize that. So it's it's difficult, because then it interjected into this. I had other physical issues that would come up. I had a fatigue that would go all the time. The stigma attached to the mental illness meant every physical issue I had was viewed as the lens of, I'm female, number one, which means hysterical or struggling in this way or that way. Or number two, it was just because I wasn't doing things right. I wasn't exercising. I wasn't eating healthy. I wasn't, doing whatever else. So these all compounded, and eventually it made me into the advocate I am today. I've had more surgeries in my life than most people that I know, because I've dealt with complex medical issues that are tied into likely genetic stuff. But again, if you're reliant on public benefits, you don't always have access to the people you need or the tools that you need to actually facilitate a clear understanding. And over time, I've done a lot of research, I've looked into a lot of things. And what I've realized is the diagnosis is not 100% important, but the validation is essential. The validation that comes with the diagnosis is essential. And that's where we have to kind of break down the realities within the disability community of, you may be disabled, I may be disabled. It's a very diverse experience. And our experiences are a conglomeration of a bunch of other things. And the medical system currently looks at things in very much a typical spectrum. And when you fall outside of that typical, you are automatically othered and marginalized, because you're viewed as, oh, you're making that up, or you're viewed as, that's insignificant right now because we don't need to deal with that issue. So this has been the ongoing struggle that I've had. And I mean, there's another story I could tell about how I came to embrace who I am and what I am, that was a part of the complex medical stuff, where I advocated. And some of this is, sorry, I'm rambling, but I'm getting jumbled too. But some of this is because I had some amazing medical providers over the course of time. I also had some amazing access into certain mental health treatment programs over time. That each one of these places and each one of these people provided me with the validation that I needed to continue to have faith in myself, to continue to push forward. And that's the power of a relationship, the power of being believed, the power of so many things when you're not. And I think this is the power of ableism in our, this is the damage of ableism in our society, the damage of there being one way that is normal, as opposed to other people that do things differently but can be just as successful if they have those needs met, their access needs, their accommodations, their supports. And it doesn't matter if you're a low support person or a high support person, you need those supports, regardless of cost, regardless of anything else. So I had a surgery that I had a back pain. I had a pain in my back for years and years and years. And then I was dropped by train company, a transit company locally, and it exacerbated everything to where the pain became unbearable. Because I was in a wheelchair and because I am a larger person, the train company actually got away with dropping me because, there was a question mark of whether my chair was too heavy with me in it to meet the ADA code, which at that time was less than what it is today. So that exacerbated knee pain as well as back pain. I started using a wheelchair in about 2006, and this was about 2009. So the next few years I spent trying to figure out what was causing this pain. And what we found was there was a lipoma, which is a fat tumor in my lower back. And it was a fairly large fat tumor in my lower back. But doctors were like, this can't be the reason of your pain. This can't be the reason of your pain. And I finally found a provider that believed me, and we scheduled me for a surgery that wasn't to remove the whole thing, but it was to remove what, and we mapped out where it might be causing pain, and it ended up being the whole thing was causing pain. However, the surgery went sideways, and it resulted in a 6 to 8 year process of me trying to heal a wound that started out being as large as a football to be entered into my lower back. And through that time, I gained confidence and I gained awareness of the rights of me as an individual in the medical system, the rights, my knowledge base, my ability to research, and also my ability to persevere. And the fact that I wasn't overcoming my deficits, I was overcoming the deficits of society. And this is where ableism plays a huge role. And it's where I gain my faith in myself, as well as it doesn't matter what diagnosis I have at this point. To me, ultimately, what matters is I have the ability, the skills, and I need to have the skills and the tools and the resources to deal with those realities, those struggle points. And not everybody does. And I'm fortunate to have the access. I can't say I'm fortunate to have the experiences I had because, trust me, the 6, 7, 8, 9 surgeries that I had in a very short succession, almost dying on the operating table when they were debriding the initial necrotic tissue from the surgery, was horrifying. But through that process, it's kind of like I liken it to a diamond getting formed, of from carbon, you take the black coal and the pressure eventually creates something that's amazing. I'm not going to say I'm amazing because I'm human and I'm flawed and all this other stuff, but I'm going to say that it's given me amazing power and amazing perception, and that's what I bring forward with me from that, from that whole experience. It's made me who I am.
Michelle, thank you. I really appreciate you being so forthcoming, even about uh, topics or themes in your tale that might be more sensitive. So I really want to honor that honesty and vulnerability that you bring. It sounds kind of at the end of that last response of yours that you maybe are able to reflect on your whole experience and think about what you've gotten from it and what you can then carry forward into new experiences. So it dives well with my third question, which is if we invented time travel, or even if you're mentoring somebody with many of the same symptoms and medical problems that you had, what advice would you give people who are starting out on that diagnostic journey?
So there's a few things. One
Sure.
is create your network, reach out, connect, find those people. Don't be alone. Don't be stuck with just the medical people telling you this flaw, this problem, that doesn't make sense. Everybody needs that validation. And it's not really an echo chamber because I think it's actually different from that, but it's like the resonance that happens within the disability community, the resonance that happens with people with shared experiences. You need those people. Fight against the other thing is fight against the internalized shame. Nobody, no matter if you did something stupid and you created your disability, by that accident or whatever, it's still an accident. Nobody I mean, you're accountable to the life that you live. However, you're not to blame when things go wrong. And that's essential that people start to realize, because that's part of unlearning the ableism that's baked within us, that's baked within our structures, our systems, our laws. So we have to realize that disability is a natural part of the human existence. It always has been, and it always will be. Removing disability doesn't necessarily make society a better place, because I will say there are those of us that are touched for whatever reason to carry lessons forward in ways that nobody else can. And that's important. Now, what I'd like to see gone is the struggle. And that struggle part is, don't believe just everything somebody says. Research it. There's a new program, there's a novel situation, there's a community out there that has done it before. And if they haven't, then that's you've got to pick and choose from those lessons that other people have and write your own book, or write your own survival guide, or create your own survival kit to enable you to continue to foster going forward. That survival kit is an essential tool. I learned it first to apply to my mental health struggles when I was compulsively suicidal and wanting to end my life for reasons that even I didn't understand. But later on, it's become my survival tool for pain, my survival tool for angry times when I'm ticked at the whole universe, for what it brings. It's become that toolbox that no longer has a bottom in it, because it's gotten that deep. But that's a toolbox I share with other people. That's a toolbox I bring forward to help other people. I believe in connection. I believe in interdependence of people. I believe that we all need each other. And what we need to stop doing is staying in our little silos and, you know, and just because this person's experience is slightly different from mine, it doesn't invalidate their experience. There's a lot of wrong going on in the world around disability, around health issues, around everything else. And we need to band together. And it's okay that you don't fit that paradigm or this model that is XYZ for this condition. You have the right to go back and keep going back to ask for your needs to be met. And if you can do that, you also have the right to take a break from that too. And that's the other side of this. Is sometimes you have to tap out, tell your community or your family, I need care. My life became more when I started using an in-home provider to assist me with my day in tasks. My life became more when I started using a wheelchair, even though the system didn't really want to give me a wheelchair, because they're like, it'll make you gain more weight, it'll make you have more struggles. My wheelchair is my freedom. My provider is my safety net. It allows me to do what I want to do, and ultimately that's where we all have to be, is that power of what do I want to be today. And I think disability strips us from us the right to dream, the right to hope in many ways, but everybody deserves to dream, and find your dream buddy or your dream partner to build those dreams together, because that's what's going to make this world a better place.
Michelle, you're very well spoken. I really consider myself lucky to have had this chance to meet with you and learn from you. That's really fantastic. When you speak about interdependence, about helping others, and then the lack of shame around receiving that same help, that all really resonates with me. Fantastic. As we close our time together, I want to give you a chance that I give everybody, regardless of project that I speak with. This is your chance, Michelle, to really promote yourself, talk about what you've got in your pipeline. Where can people find you online if they want to connect with you? If you have a recent win, you can share that. This is your chance to grab those pom poms, be your own cheerleader, step up on that soapbox. Michelle, hit us.
So as I said at the beginning, I'm in the process of forming All Things Disability, which is of, by, and for people, about equity for everybody, with people with and without disabilities. So ultimately, which is my website is allthingsdisability.org. As I'm forming that, I do offer creative problem solving sessions to people with disabilities that are struggling with the systems that we navigate. And that is in an in community rate. So I understand that disability happens and costs to happen at different times. I can't take unlimited people in this reality, but what I try to do is resource from people that have resources to support the work to enable me to give to other people to have a 1 hour or 40-minute session of just problem solving and it's not legal advice, it's not anything else. Additionally to that, I do training and consulting around accessibility and anti-ableism. And that's done through both, eventually, hopefully, once all things disability is fully formed, there's complexities with that. I've been a very strong advocate here in Santa Clara County where I live, where I helped draft a disability inclusion and equity pledge that was adopted by 2 different locations. And through that work, I continue to push my city and my county to unlearn the structural ableism that is present in our systems. And this is a never ending process that I'm sure you're very familiar with because of your roles and what you do. But my website is also a place for people that have a story or an article or an issue. I want it to become eventually a platform for other disabled people that may not have the resource to share their story in other ways. But none of this happens quickly because I'm juggling a lot of different things. So hopefully over the next year, I think things are going to change and I'm going to see more progress towards the anti-ableism curriculum that I'm developing and pushing for these changes. And I have seen significant change local to me through the equity pledges, as well as kind of educating people on human rights focus of disability, as opposed to we want disability rights. And then the people that say disability rights are human rights, it's like they're not yet because we're still second class or third class citizens. So that's where I come from. That's where what I'm trying to do. Um, and I am also available as a public speaker, for people that are interested in reaching out to discuss that.
Michele, thank you. That's fantastic. You do a lot, and I can't wait to see what you do next. Wherever you go, whatever you do, friend, I'm rooting for you. Thank you for meeting with me.
Thank you, Nico. It's been a great experience. Hopefully it's not too hard to edit. So
All right. Thank you so much, Michele. Take care now.
you too.